All right, please be joined this time by Coach Thomas Flowers, defense coordinator at Stevens County. And let me tell you, Coach, first, I want to thank you for coming on. But before I even let you talk, let me tell anybody that was listening that these guys at Stevens County have one of the best defenses in Georgia last year. I saw them on video a couple of times, followed them all year. I know some of these guys, so I keep up with them. This defense was fantastic. The whole team was, Coach, but the defense was awesome, man. That's why I was really excited we could get you on here. So, first, congratulations on the great season. Second, thank you for coming on with me, man.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be on here. I've gotten a lot from your resources, Coach. We did have a great season, got great players, great staff, and I'm excited to kind of share with you some things that we do that we feel like might be kind of unique to defense. Anyways, today I'm going to be talking about simplicity and accountability. Just a little bit about me. Like Coach said, I'm Thomas Flowers, defense coordinator, Stevens County. I'm a coach's son. Grew up in football locker room. Grew up in the coach's office. My dad still coaches. My brother's a coach. We talk a lot of football. Talked every day. This is my wife, Hannah. She's a stay-at-home mom. I've got 2 kids. Porter, he's 3, and then Ada Claire, she's due kind of any minute. So that's very exciting. Just to give you kind of a little rundown of where I've been. I started out at Gilmer County High School, moved on to Thomasville High School, Veterans High School, but I want to focus on kind of that transition from Veterans High School to Stevens County High School and the situation in that 2020 season and some changes that we made at Stevens County from that 2019 to 2020 season. But going into that season, joining a program coming off a 1-9 season, taking over a defense that allowed 36 points a game, I really felt like I was on the hot seat. And, a lot of my coaching buddies told me, hey, you're on the hot seat, bud. You're really in danger of, getting fired, before you even get started. And then, not to mention our region is really tough. It still includes the same teams that did 3 years ago, Hart, Monroe area, Oconee, just really tough, high scoring offenses, really good coaches, really good players in our region. And then you got COVID going on at the same time. But I knew Coach Tankersley's where he's been and what he's accomplished. I really believe in him. I knew that he could put it all together. And I knew that Stevens County was a special place that really loves football. It's got great players. And so I just knew it was a matter of time. And, other people might not have known it, but, I knew that, 1-9 was kind of uncharacteristic. So how did we go from, 36.3 points per game to, what we maintain and improve on now? That's really what I want to focus on, because again, in that 2019 season, if you're an opponent of Stevens County, you could just about guarantee that you're going to score at least a touchdown more than you normally score. And, to this year and last year, you can, pretty much guarantee that you're going to score 2 less than you normally do. And so the 2 things that I want to talk about is simplicity and accountability. We simplified our scheme, we simplified our defensive philosophy, and then we made defense understandable for our players. We use what's called skull sessions. That's the buzzword everybody's using right now. It's really just PowerPoint sessions is all it is. It's talking sessions. Not just coach to player, but player to coach, player to player, coach to coach. We incorporated these sessions. We're going to talk about that. Quizzes. So we quiz players on these sessions. We give players player manuals. We feel like this is unique because we don't give out, playbooks. I think that you can really give kids too much in terms of playbook, information overload. And so this is kind of, I think unique the way we do it. And then cheat sheets. This is, 2 or 3 pieces of paper that we give to the kids that is basically a snapshot of the opponent that they're playing this week. And again, it's not a game plan. It is position specific. You're going to hear me say that over and over and over again. This is position specific. Not everybody, the corner doesn't need to know what the defensive end is doing, on buck sweep. Okay. There's times that, they might need to know what each other's doing, but we want to be as position specific as possible. And then accountability. How do we increase accountability? How do we hold kids accountable using team drills like pursuit, incorporating what I call a loaf list. We started to wage a war on profanity, which kind of seems to be a norm in football right now, disappointingly. And then, we incorporated something really easy. You can do in a couple minutes a player ranking system that we feel like is unique. But first thing, simplicity, scheme. We base out of a 4-4. Okay. So what does that allow us to do? This helps us because we're able to stay consistent, create carryover from game to game, from season to season, despite opponent changes. So in that 2020 season, we played a wing T team, a really good wing T team. North Hall, we played an option team in Madison County. We played multiple spread teams, power I teams, power spread teams. And so, we really, one thing that we don't do, and I know other teams have, success doing. One thing that we don't do is we don't have a defense of the week. We're not going to have a 3-4 against a spread team or an empty team, and we're not going to, do a 50 versus the wing T, or have a wing T or an option buster 4-3. We're not going to do that. We're going to do what we do within our system to create carryover so the kids can play fast, and it is simple to them and they understand it, and they're not playing a position or in a place or have a responsibility that they've never had before. The other thing that we did is we started basing out of cover 3. Number one thing that cover 3 does for us is it allows us to get our eyes on the quarterback and create interceptions. In 2021, we had 23 interceptions. We also believe that zone defense is very low risk because, it limits the one-on-one matchups that you have. There's little adjustments that's needed against motion. And so, if you're in man coverage or palms or 2 read, and you get motion, it can get confusing. It gets confusing to me. I'm not a very smart person, but when someone motions and you're in man coverage, I know you pretty much either got to run with that person or you're going to have to get into a different coverage with that person. So what we do not do is we do not hang our hat on man coverage or 2 read palms coverages. I hear a lot of this out of teams that run those as, hey, he read this, but I read that. And I believe that creates big plays for offenses. But, at the same time, I see teams that run 2 read and palms and hang their hat on man coverage, and they have a lot of success, and they are really good at it. And I know they rep the mess out of it. But that's just not us. That's not our identity. I don't think that's simple enough for us. And not to say that we don't run man coverage or do those things, because we do mix in those things. We just don't hang our hat on those things. We changed our philosophy to a read and react defense, bend but don't break philosophy. Kind of mix up the fronts, but don't do so much blitzing. We also believe that this is low risk. It creates a layered defense, and we're able to show again multiple fronts. Each position only needs to know a few things. So it's the Mike Leach philosophy. Everybody knows Mike Leach as being an offensive genius, and he is. But just to kind of take away some things from him, he was actually very simple, but it looked complex on the field. He was really big on, hey, if you're a right receiver, you only stay on the right side. If you're a left receiver, you stay on the left side, and you get really good at running those routes on the left side or running the routes on the right side. And so we try to incorporate some of his offensive philosophies and simplicity to the defense that we run here. What we do not do, we don't hang our hat on blitzing. We don't do it to create chaos, to discourage pullers, to create negative plays. That's just not us. I know that it's just a difference in philosophy. I know a lot of people get a lot of mileage out of, hey, on first down, we're going to blitz because we want to get in 2nd and long, 3rd and long, go 3 and out. But kind of the reasoning behind we do what we do, why we run a zone and a read and react defense, is we believe that the more you blitz and the more you play man coverage, the more your risk and reward are going to increase. Okay, so if you look at these 2 arrows, your rewards are going to increase. Interception, sacks, TFLs, those are all going to become more likely when you blitz. Okay. But your risk are also going to become more likely. Touchdowns, big plays are going to become more likely. But as your talent equalizes or decreases, or you might have, what's considered average players, your reward is going to decrease as your risk increases. So as your talent decreases, again, touchdowns, big plays, those are going to become more likely. And interceptions, sacks, TFLs, those are going to become more unlikely. But again, we do mix in, some blitzing, and we will play some man coverage, but we just don't think that, hanging our hat on those things is going to benefit us. We want to play to our talent, even though we do have good players here at Stephens County. All right, so how do we make defense understandable for the players? PowerPoint school sessions. We have a overall defensive PowerPoint that we show the kids. We have a tackling specific PowerPoint, and then we go into each position specifically with our position coach and do PowerPoints with those position groups. Then we do defensive IQ quizzes. So we've got a quiz on football basics that's going to go over everything from leverage, hash, down and distance, just basically the basics of football is all that is. An overall defensive quiz. Then we're going to get into some position specific quizzes about those PowerPoints that they've gone over. We give out player manuals, cheat sheets, but I'm going to go over each one of these PowerPoints. Our overall defensive PowerPoint, we show this 3 times a year. Okay. We show this here in about a month. We'll show it. So in the wintertime, we'll show it during spring training, spring practice, and then we're going to show it again during summer camp. But this is not an in-season thing that we do. We're not going to be showing the kids PowerPoints in the middle of the season. But this PowerPoint is going to include team goals from last year and this year, what we did right, what we did wrong, what goals we need to work on, an explanation of goals, why we have these goals. We're going to have a slide on rules. What specific rules do we have to defense? What is defense at its essence? We're going to talk about that. Hey, defense is getting lined up, running to the ball, and tackling the guy with the ball. That's what defense is. It's nothing more. Don't make it more complicated. We're going to go over our philosophy. I'm going to go over pretty much everything that I just went over here with our players. We're going to talk about why we're read and react, why we play so much cover 3, why we, shift our secondary, why we play so many fronts, why we don't blitz. I'm going to talk about what we hang our hat on. Then we're going to go over, basic defensive structure. So a Mike, a Will, a Rush, where those guys are generally on the field, strength call, how we do it, how we call our fronts, how we call our stunts, blitzes, coverages, any kind of special tags that we use. This is essentially our playbook. It's roughly 60 slides long. It takes about 4 days to go over. I've included some of these examples from that PowerPoint for our overall defense. So this is our team goal slide right here. So we're going to go over all 10 team goals. We're going to go over how we did against each opponent with those goals, what went right, what went wrong, how we're going to practice to make these things better, what things we might need to practice less, our philosophy, how we're going to attack all offenses. It's going to have, this is going to be kind of just a catch-all defensive PowerPoint. We're going to go over zone coverage, why we run zone coverage, understanding the front numbers, how we call our fronts. We use numbers. They need to know what 31 means. They need to know what 23 means. And so we're going to go over that. We're going to give examples of those. I'm going to talk to them. I believe that you need to talk through these. You don't need to be just the only one talking the whole time. You need to have them engaged. Hey, Jason, what I just say, hey, what is the strength of this formation? Who's a run first player? Who's a pass first player? The Will and the Mike, they're run first. Bandit, stud, our outside linebackers, we're run first. Free safety, corners, pass first. Explain to the kids what that means. We've got a heap of diagrams and explanations of every coverage and blitz and stunt. And then we're going to get into our tackling PowerPoint, which is we just show one time a year. We show it in the wintertime. So we'll show it here in about a month and a half, not for in season, but this is going to include our 6 fundamentals of tackling. It's going to have the speeds that we use to practice tackling. So we're not always full speed. We're not always, using two-hand touch or thud. But, we're going to go over each speed, why we use them, description of each, the types of tackles, inline, angle, gator, open field, every type of tackle you can imagine that we use. And then we're going to talk about the drills that we use to practice those tackling. This is about 25 slides. It takes about 2 days to go over. It includes a lot of tape. And, we don't really show a whole lot of tape of ourselves. We show tape of really good college teams and really good NFL teams because we want the kids to know, hey, we didn't make up this on our own. We're not making you do things that, the best of the best don't already do. And I think that the kids, that motivates the kids to want to do it and want to be good at it. Hey, the University of Alabama does this, I need to be doing this too. This is some examples from that tackling PowerPoint, fundamentals, the 6 that we use, the speeds that we use in tackling. Hey, we uppercut a butt. This is, kind of usually done when we want zero contact, two-hand touch, how we tackle a bag. Okay, so we have a specific way that we tackle a bag or a tackling donut. We want that to be explained before we get out there, and we have to, explain while we're out there, hey, that's not the way that you tackle a bag or a donut. Thud, why we use thud. What are the the kind of dangers of thud? Why is it necessary? And then full speed, what does that look like? Types of tackles, going to go over each one, and then the drills that go along with each type. And then every single drill is going to look like this for each slide. So tracking drill, it's going to have a video of a college team or professional team doing that drill. It's going to have the purpose, it's going to have the description, it's going to have the coaching points. Angle tackle, same deal. These are two just more examples of those specific tackling drills and what those look like. All right. Position specific PowerPoints. We show this, 3 times a year, winter, spring, and again, we show it at camp. And by the time it looks like a lot of information because some of these PowerPoints are 50 and 60 slides long. It looks like a lot, but again, we're doing these 3 times, okay, before the season hits. And so we really think that everything in these PowerPoints are important and that they get it. But these position specific ones, they're done by the position coach, and it serves as kind of an introduction to the position itself. It's going to have kind of an about me of each position coach. It's going to, I want them to include a family picture. I want them to talk about, if they played college football, what's their coaching career look like. I want them to use this time to really let the players know who they are, and that they're qualified to coach them and they know what they're talking about. A lot of players can go their whole high school career, and not realize that, not get that. It's going to have a description, expectations at that position. And then this is really important. We're going to include great examples of that position. So we're going to have past Indians. We're going to have current college and pro players that we want these kids to look at as great examples at their position. We're going to have highlights of each of these players, these great examples, and what made them great at their position. We're going to have slides on their alignment, their stance, their keys, their responsibilities. We're going to have a list of every drill, teach tape for each drill. And then the number of slides is going to vary. And we edit these all the time. We'll be in the middle of the season and my defensive line coach, he'll text me and say, hey, I just added 3 slides for next year. Okay. So we're constantly editing these. We're constantly making these better. I think our players really appreciate these because it does a really good job of explaining their position and making it simple for them. And I think that our coaches enjoy making them and showing them. There's just some examples of those PowerPoints. So I got this from our defensive line PowerPoint. This is just our defensive line coach is going to go over stem and gap exchange steps. He's got a video here. It's not going to play, but it's got a little description. He's got a video. He's going to explain that. This is from our outside linebacker PowerPoint. This is how we teach a stance at outside linebacker position. We've got 3 examples of what it should look like. We call it a power clean stance. And then an example of what it should not look like. This right here, this is a Stevens County example of a great middle linebacker that's come through before these kids have come through. It's got his highlight tape. It's got, kind of his accolades, and then it's got why he was really great at being a middle linebacker and why our players now should be more like this player. We've got run fits and reads. This is from our middle linebacker PowerPoint. This is just talking about, hey, simple inside read, run fits. Outside linebacker, how do we assault number two? When we're displaced as an outside linebacker, how are we going to get off a block by a receiver? And then this is another stance slide. This is out of our middle linebacker PowerPoint. It's just going to go over everything they need to know about how to get in a stance at middle linebacker. Again, take a lot of pride in these. And then we quiz the kids over all these skull sessions. This is really good. I didn't think that this was going to be as useful as it was, but this will really surprise you what players know and what players don't know. It will also tell you what to focus on. Hey, my kids don't know their, defensive techniques or whatever, or this kid is really unfamiliar with coverages, or this kid really knows his stuff and he's not playing like it. And why? We need to figure out why. So the types of quizzes that we use: football IQ quiz, we give one of those. Overall defensive quiz, we've got 4 of those. Front stunts blitzes, 2. Coverages quiz, we've got 2 of those. Tackling quiz, I just do one quick one. Then we have our position specific quiz, one of those. I've got examples of these right here. Defensive quiz 1, this is question 10. Hey, I need you to draw up this defense, so 13 black against trips open. I want you to draw every single position right here. This is, draw the blitz that's named. Okay, so right here, they've got to draw, hey, Ringo, 31 fire strong. They've got to draw Ringo heads, ice strong here. There's some multiple choice questions there. This is our tackling quiz, short and sweet. Hey, what's our 6 fundamentals of tackling? You need to know it. You need to know all the buzzwords. You need to know what we're telling you when you're out there on that field. Name 3 drills that we have to practice inline tackling. You need to be familiar with every drill and why we're doing that drill. You need to know the purpose of it. And then after these are graded, I'll graded, they're not really graded. I'm just trying to figure out what the kids know. And, we're going to take these quizzes over and over again until they get it right, but I'm going to give them the answer. So they're going to get a key. They're going to get, an explanation as to, why, this is the correct answer. But we get a lot of mileage out of these quizzes. It takes a lot of time, but it's well worth it. We give player manuals out. We give these out during the spring when we do our position PowerPoint sessions. This is meant to supplement our position PowerPoints and serve as a reference for our players throughout the year, so they keep these all year long. This is essentially our playbook for the players, but it does not include the whole defense. Okay, so if we, these player manuals, I've got one for corners, it doesn't have our fronts on it. It's going to have the coverages and everything they need to know about corner. We believe loose wires cause fires. But these manuals are going to have a description of the position, their alignments, description of stance, basic keys and reads, and a list of all the indie drills they're going to use. This is our, and again, we try to keep this really short. We try to keep this about 2 or 3 pages, but this is our outside linebacker player manual. It's just going to have a description, alignment, stance, general responsibilities, some keys and read diagrams that they're going to use very often. They need to know pretty quick. And then a list of all the drills, okay? Footwork drills, block destruction, tackling drills, run fits, blitzes, turnover drills, pass fits. And then right here, this is just, kind of what they're going to need in terms of install, just kind of terminology that they're going to need to know. Cheat sheets, okay? So cheat sheets, this is done for each opponent during the season. This is huge for us. This is specific to the position as well. We do not distribute whole game plans to kids on paper. It's on the board in our defensive office, and that's where it stays. They can come in there and look at all that they want, but they're going to get this cheat sheet instead. They're only going to need to know what they need to know. But we're very selective about what we want the players to know. what is necessary and what is not. We try to avoid information overload. Yeah, there's a tendency on 3rd and 13 on the left hash. The quarterback's got his toe pointed out, a little bit to the right. It's counter every time. We're not telling the kids that. Okay. Yes, we know it's 100% tendency, but it's not worth the limited space that they have to memorize things during the season. We try to fit this on no more than one page front and back. We want it as simple as possible. We meet with the players on Monday to discuss the cheat sheets. And again, loose wires cause fires. I can't tell you how many times I've heard, hey, we were playing away and we were in the visitor locker room. We looked in the trash, and what do you know? The whole game plan was sitting in the trash. Opposing coach had given a player game plan. He threw it away or left it on the locker room floor. And, now it's in our hands. So we label this with the players' names. Coaches will occasionally do checks. So we'll text the players, hey, Armand, I need you to send me a picture of your cheat sheet right now. I want to make sure that you didn't leave it in that field house. I want to make sure it's on you right now. And they're going to turn it back to us on Friday. This is an example of a cheat sheet. Okay. I had to change some of the numbers and some of this game plan stuff because, probably going to play this team again, but it's going to have personnel, some notes about personnel, some, minor, general game plan stuff. Every formation is going to be on there, where they need to line up. If there's a check, what's the pass percentage for this formation? They need to know, hey, it's 78% pass anytime they're in trips. That's a big deal. They ran this 45 times. That's a significant, deal. This is a pass formation. What's the top run plays? Hey, they really like speed option away from trips, or, the different passes, any kind of, calls or checks that they need to know. They're going to have those backfield tendencies. This is huge for our linebackers and defensive line. Hey, when the running back and H-backs is split, it's going to be zone this way, or it's going to be counter GH away from the H-back and zone. Okay. If the running back's even, it's mostly pass. If it's not a tendency, we just leave it off, obviously. Running backs are the same. Hey, power this way, zone can be both ways. They memorize it. They need to know it, and they need to know it by Wednesday. We give this to them on Monday. Tuesday, we kind of help them. And then on Wednesday, we expect them to know it like the back of their hand. Motion tendencies. Hey, every time they motion the running back out, hey, it's pass. They motion the wide receiver across, pass. H-back across, it's run. Anything, we call these tips. We call these cheat sheets. Because this is just little advantages we feel like makes a difference when we play the game, and we really feel like it helps, and our players really like this. If there's ever a tendency broken in a game, we know pretty quick, because our players are going to say, hey, coach, those running backs were split and they ran buck or whatever. That's not what was on the cheat sheet, and so we know that the players are really paying attention to these. Accountability. Moving on. All right. So we use pursuit drills. Everybody does pursuit drills. Everybody does it. We do 4 different types. We do turnover pursuit, which is, hey, QB drops, throws an interception, guy catches the ball, gets to the sideline, tries to score. Everybody else is sprinting on the thrown ball, leading that guy to the end zone. They break it down and they're off. Rabbit pursuit. Traditional rabbit pursuit, ball carriers run down the sideline while defenders uppercut the butt of the ball carrier. They go to the end zone, break it down, next group up. Change direction. So change direction. This is a big UGA pursuit. It's just like rabbit pursuit, but if the players get a hard whistle, so they hear that hard whistle, they know that there's another rabbit going the opposite sideline. They've got to redirect as if that's reverse or counter or some kind of cutback. And then we have QB scramble. Okay, so this is just, again, this is all basic stuff that everybody does. But it's more about how we do these pursuit drills. We put a huge emphasis, number one, on taking the field. Taking the field is simulating a sudden change of possession. So say that we're under the tent as a defense, we're making adjustments. It's first down. The offense has the ball on the opposite side of the field, and there's a turnover. We've got to get out there fast. We've got to sprint. We can't jog. We can't walk. We've got to get out there because the offense is coming. The opposing offense is coming, and they're about to run a play. So we put a huge emphasis on taking the field. They sprint onto the field. They do not jog on the field. That's the number one thing. If they can't get this right, we can't do the drill. We have two different main ways that we do our pursuit drills. We have regular, which basically means, hey, if it's not done perfectly, okay, from start to finish, we're not going to move on until it's right. Okay, we're not going to move on to the next group. We usually do about 3 groups of defenses. And then we have fast. We do fast pursuits. So we'll do all 4 of these pursuits. We'll just do it as fast as we can. So even if the players maybe get the strength call wrong, or they have the wrong responsibility, or they might not have such a great angle, they screw up something, we're not going to start them over. We're just going as fast as we can. We don't have enough time to stop and do it over. We're trying to get as many reps as possible, and it turns into a conditioning, how hard are you kind of drill. The other thing is, this makes drill. We want to make this drill the game before the game. Okay, so we put a huge emphasis on increasing stress on the players by changing the strength. Hey, it's a right call. Now it's a left call. Now it's Ringo. Now it's Roger. Then when we'll change the coverage up. We'll change the front. We want to put them in an adverse, unfair situation. We want to, point out little things. And we tell the kids, up front, hey, it might not be fair, but unfair things are going to happen in a football game. A referee is going to miss a holding call, or you're going to get a pass interference that you might not have deserved, and we're gonna make up things to just cause havoc, to basically simulate a game for you. And so, why do we do these pursuit drills? Well, we do them for the traditional reasons: alignment, calls, and angles. Effort, looking at all those things, but we also identify who knows the defense and who can overcome adversity. Going back to that word stress, and I'll use another word, strain. We want to see who can overcome adversity. And, this is, our kids, I'll tell you, this is the hardest thing we do. We try to make it the hardest thing. We try to make it way harder than a game. All right, moving on, accountability. This is huge for us. This is called a loaf list. This is basically a list of guys not getting after it at practice. I've changed these names, but the huddle play number and the reasons why, I didn't change. This is a real loaf list that we used in October, but we post these in the locker rooms. Loafs are found that night by me, or the next morning on Huddle. I'll just go on there and I'll highlight them. And I'll send them to the players. Hey, you didn't really get after it during this play. This needs to be better. And then they can look on the board in the locker room, what they did wrong. It takes a lot of time, but the first time you do it, you're going to have, a bunch of names, a bunch of lows, but the list is going to get smaller. It lets players know they're being watched every play at practice. There is an eye in the sky. They know that they're being watched. It's a pride thing, okay? Because what's going to happen to this loaf list is it's going to start with, 15 names. Then it's going to get down to 10 names, then 5 names, and then there's going to be one person left. And, they don't want to be that last person on the loaf list. And so they're going to do what it takes at practice to get off that loaf list. But this is what it looks like. Again, huddle play number, the player name, and then what they did. And so how do we define a loaf? Well, it's turning down a hit. It's getting passed by a teammate. It's failure to redirect to the ball. Laying on the ground is a loaf. Not changing your speed or changing your speed is a loaf. And then pursuit happens after the whistle at practice. This is what I mean by that. So at practice, we expect everybody to take extra steps. So say that you're the backside corner. If you're the backside corner and you're still 20 yards away from the ball carrier when the whistle blows, we expect you to take at least 5 more yards of full effort pursuit to the ball before you can actually stop. So you go after the whistle. But that is our loaf list. It's been huge for us. We do this mostly towards the beginning of the season, and then as it goes on, we use it less and less because the kids are meeting our standard. The other thing that we've done to increase accountability is we've waged a war on bad language. Profanity is a norm right now in football. Really at all levels. I hear it at 7-on-7, padded camps, hot mics on TV. It's everywhere. It's Stevens County. We're trying to be different. We're trying to fight that. We're waging a war against it. We have been for the past 3 years with a point of emphasis. And we believe that we're increasing discipline and accountability by helping young men control their language. We tell the kids all the time, once every couple of weeks, if you can't control your mouth, you have no control over your actions. So ways that we decrease profanity, we punish for bad language. Hey, I hear a curse word. Hey, give me 10 push-ups or see me after practice. And then we eliminate music with profanity. I think that, most people do that, but, we've tried to eliminate music with negative themes. If the music is talking about, drugs or alcohol or, just bad things in general, negative things that we would never want our players to do, we eliminate it. It's not played during our pregame. It's not played in our weight room. It's not like we're playing Kids Bop, but we're not going to listen to nasty music. And the third thing that we do to decrease profanity is we explain to players why this is important. My 3-year-old's at practice all the time. He's not going to listen to bad language. We have the newspaper guy, or there might be ladies walking around the track. We want to create an environment that's better than that. We've come a long ways in this area. And I believe this has helped us be a better football team. I really do. I think this has helped us on the field, not just off the field. And I think that it can really help a lot of teams get over a hump if they'll just make it a point of emphasis to eliminate that bad language. And it's a war. It's not a battle you're going to really win. It's a war that you're going to have to constantly be in, but you can decrease it. All right. So finally, player ranking system. This is super easy. This can be done in a few minutes. Ask players to create their own depth chart at their own position anonymously. Okay, so text is the easiest way to do this. To me, it's the easiest and fastest thing you can do to learn more about your players, learn how they view their teammates and themselves, and increase accountability. Because now all of a sudden people really care about what the other people around them think of them. Okay, so what I see a lot when these players rank their position is a lot of the high character kids are going to be up top. If they're well liked, they're going to be up top. They want to be up top because they know that we pay attention to this player ranking system. I challenge you to do this. It will surprise you. I did this today with a corner. I've gained a lot of knowledge from this every time I've done it. The corner, he sent back one of our middle linebackers needs to play free safety. And, more and more I thought about it, he's a third string linebacker, but he might need to play free safety. He's got the body, he's got the build, and it's something that I probably would have never seen, but a kid pointed out. And sometimes the kids know things you don't. But this will only work if the players take it seriously. They're not going to take it seriously if you don't. And the players know that it's anonymous, that, other players are not going to find out how they rank them. And then the next conversation that you have with those players after they rank themselves and the players around them is very important. So, when I talk to that corner tomorrow, I'm going to say, hey, why did you put this player at free safety? Why did you put yourself, who started last year, as a second stringer on defense? Why did you do that? You're going to find out so much. I challenge you to do it. Super easy. But in summary, simplicity, accountability. These are two things that helped us, simplified our scheme and our philosophy. We use PowerPoint skull sessions, quizzes on those skull sessions, player manuals, cheat sheets, all been huge for us. And then accountability. How have we increased those? Well, we've used pursuit drills to kind of play a game before the game, low list, huge, warm profanity, and then the player ranking system. But thank you for having me, Coach Parker. This is a huge honor to me. I've gained so much. You probably recognize some of those things, like the player position
absolutely.
sheet. I definitely stole that from you. But thank you very much.
Well, you've done way more than I did, man. You guys have really carried that on, and I can see why your team played as hard as they did. All that stuff's a lot of work, but very important, man. I really appreciate that. I really think some people are gonna get something out of that. So thanks a lot, Coach. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much, Coach. Thanks for having me on.
Take care.
You too.